Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. It's Monday, June 30th, 2025, episode 425, and we're going to talk about America's decline and China's rise, not necessarily in that order. So you may have heard it, a bunch of Americans chanting, USA, USA, we're number one, whatever. Number one in what? I've asked this question before. I frequently ask it of students in class, and they always have to scratch their head when they try to figure out what the US is number one in. Because if you if you don't try to answer that question, you're just like, no, we're the best at everything. Well, like what? Uh, Education? No, definitely not. Technology? Nope. Medicine? No. Military? No. Uh, Prison population? Yes, the United States has nearly 2 million inmates at any given time, which is far more than any other country in the world. Now, granted, some countries just execute their uh, criminals, but nevertheless, 2 million at any given time is the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. So, when we look at other countries and we talk about how bad they are, well, we got all these criminals, so there's that. We're number one in losing wars, right? I mean, I don't think there is any other country that participates in as many wars as the United States and loses. Um, does America ever win? I mean, lost to the Houthis for crying out loud in Yemen, and then supposedly this 12-day war, Trump put a end to it, supposedly, but probably not. So US participates in wars and they lose. And so really, Israel's first mistake was counting on America to do a lot of its fighting for it, right? Because if you hear it tell on Judge Napolitano's uh, podcast, you'll know that Israel was running out of missiles, and Iran didn't even really make a dent in its stockpiles. So it was a lopsided war, really. And apparently, Israel, the reason why Israel put a media silence on all media is because all of the major critical areas of Israel were hit. And so they were really getting plastered. Sure, they were giving as well as they were getting, but it's a war of attrition, right? So Iran is 10 times bigger than Israel, right? 90 million versus 8 million, right? So, and a lot of those people are trying to get out of the country. So you have that. Plus Israel, which is mostly a militia uh, army, right? What do you call that? National Guard kind of stuff, where they are trained to fight for a short period of time. But now with the Gaza conflict, Syria, and now the whole Iran thing, uh, they're fatigued, right? They just don't want that any longer. And the assumption was that the United States was going to come to the rescue of Israel. Whether that will or will not happen, not too sure, because Trump is just really flaky this way. And we're number one in national debt, right? No other country has a debt as large as the United States. Hey, we're number one. Oh, yeah, and I can't wait to get my debt clock. Has not come yet. Um, I'm really anxious to get it. But anyway, and then you got a president who loves to post the most ridiculous, unhinged rants, like the latest one going after Thomas Massey. Oh my goodness, it's just pathetic, really. Thomas Massey is basically MAGA. I'm surprised why he doesn't call out Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? I mean, she's just as much an anti-Semite as Thomas Massey is, as much as I am, right? And in case you weren't following, it's a no, we're not really anti-Semitic, right? But according to them, Trump and his ilk, apparently we are. And so I think it's kind of funny how he doesn't go after Marjorie Taylor Greene, but goes after Thomas Massie, right? And Thomas Massie actually wants the energy of America unleashed. He wants America to get back on top, and you can't do it with this crushing debt and by adding to it. It just does not work. And Trump with his uneducated, just totally lowbrow, uh, just ugh, low IQ posting. It's just I can't read it anymore. I can't comment on it anymore. And so that's why for a while I'm going to take a break from commenting on the politics because it's so ridiculous. It's to the point of absurd. It's like the kindergartners are running the country, right? You got people like Trump on the one hand, and then you got communists on the other. And the commies are just equally, actually, a little bit more moronic, right? Because they're hypocrites on top of everything. They never admit that they're wrong. I called out a bunch of people on Facebook, like people who, like when I posted that Trump lied, they're like, "Oh, finally you see the light." And so I threw it back at them. I said, "Okay, so you're going to admit that Biden was also a liar?" And none of them, not a single one of them would admit that they were wrong about anything. And those kinds of people, I just really, I dislike them so much. uh, Meanwhile, China is quietly spreading the news that their currency, the yuan, will be backed by gold. A lot of people will look for a link and it's not there. This is like really insider information if you want to know. Monaco 64 last Sunday had an interview with Paul of the Sirius Report, Sirius, the Sirius Report. He has his own channel as well. And the title of the episode was Exclusive. China quietly announces it will back its currency with gold. And so people were mocking them for saying that. But China actually probably has closer to 40,000 tons of gold compared to maybe 8,000 that the US has. So, in other words, 5 times more gold than the United States. And so Trump even posted, he who has the gold makes the rules. And so obviously China is the one that's going to make the rules. And so financially speaking, there's a shift, there's a change in world power, global power, right? People were so fixated on Russia, but it's actually China. China is becoming the new world power. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more now. And the reason I've been thinking about this all weekend, and I've been talking with my family about it, but I saw a video of a innovation of China where they completed a 24-kilometer bridge slash island slash tunnel slash underwater hub, right? So 16 years from idea to problem solving to completion. I think the actual construction was not that long, maybe a year, less perhaps, several months maybe. But once they got all the plans together, then they just put it into action and they cranked out this bridge. Now, the underwater part, and if you want to know the video that I'm using primarily, it's the title of it is called China America is shocked. Oh, excuse me. Forget about that first China. America is shocked. China's insane construction tech creates the world's longest underwater tunnel. And apparently, this channel, I gotta probably subscribe to it because it has lots of different things that China has been doing, some of which I've already been made aware. But it's described as a cross-sea megastructure and is called the Shenzhen-Zhongshan link. And it's around Hong Kong, right? It's supposed to, I think, connect Hong Kong with Macau. And part of it is this 6.8 kilometer undersea tunnel. Now, you might say, oh, there's a tunnel. Yeah, but this one has 16 lanes, 8 lanes of cars in each direction. And the bridge as a whole is 24 kilometers long. 6.8 kilometers are underwater. And obviously, that's so that shipping can cross on top of it. What I didn't know was that when a boat travels over on the water over the tunnel, that the weight of the ship also adds somehow. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong, but somehow the displacement or the weight of the ship influences the pressure on the tunnel as well. And so it was a big engineering challenge. The water pressure at that depth, it's 40 meters down and it's extremely wide. So how do you have something really wide with all of that water pressure on top of it, and how does it not collapse? And so they came up with this steel shell filled with concrete, which is supposed to make it 400% stronger. So that's why it can happen. And it is covered with sensors to sense stress live, right? So it's constantly sending measurements of stress in the tunnel. And if you watch the video, you see how they made it, but it's that same prefabrication um, section construction, and they put it together. And their tech has advanced so much that they can drop an 80-ton section of the tunnel, lower it down, and connect it with the other section within the within the width of within half the width of a hair, right? So your hair on your head, half that thickness, that's how close they can get to, line up these sections. I mean, that is insane. Uh, and I don't think anyone in America maybe are thinking about it, but to actually bring it about, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. But as I said, the manufacturing of this tunnel is all automated because humans cannot work fast enough. See, that's the thing, right? They just simply cannot work fast enough to do all of the work. And, it was, like I said, it was completed very, very quickly once the construction started. So a lot of the theory, planning, and all that kind of stuff, include all of that. It's 16 years, but still, I think in America, it takes 16 years just to build an apartment complex, right? So I think it really is something you should check out that video. Uh, they use a special concrete. It's not like concrete is all concrete is the same. It's a special concrete that they developed, which can also withstand a level 9 earthquake. So it's 300 meters wide, 40 meters deep into the this strait, I guess, river strait, I don't know what you would call it. Uh, and it opened last year, right? So the video is a couple months old. I only just saw it, and it was pretty impressive. But we already know that China has fast build. Even almost 10 years ago, I know that they were building 57-story buildings in 19 days or something like that. Also, you can see that they have boat elevators or ship lifts. You should Google that too. That's just incredible. So they'll build waterways like people in America will build an elevated highway, but it's filled with water. And then when they get to a place where there's a big difference in altitude or the river is at a different what do you call it elevation, then they have a lift and it lowers the boat into the river below. Or if you have a waterfall or if you have a dam, then hey, no problemo. And not only that, but they are building all over the world, right? So in Africa, I mentioned before that in the Caribbean, America offers to build military bases on those islands, whereas China comes in and offers to build hospitals. Okay. And of course, America blocks the building of a hospital and insists that what they really need is a military base on their island, right? This is America, right? Where the agenda of the neocons, the agenda of the deep state, is supposed to become the agenda of the average everyday person who's starving, who's unemployed, who would love to have a couch or a sofa or a TV in their house. But no, you need a military base more than any of that. And that's why more and more countries, particularly oppressed countries, countries oppressed by regimes that are funded by the US government, right? Those countries are turning more and more to China to improve their standard of living, to improve their life. And you can like criticize Russia and China as being, dictatorial, authoritarian, anti-freedom. I gotta tell you that uh, it's all talk, right? America's freedom stance, America's so-called pro-democracy, it's all talk. It's all hot air. And all people see all over the world is oppression. And American tax dollars going to support dictatorial regimes all over the world. And the people who have to live under them, the average person, not the people connected with the government, but the average person uh, hates America. Come on, what reason is there to love America? Even in Gaza, I mean, why would anyone there love America, knowing full well that the bombs that Israel is dropping are all from America, paid for by America? None of that would have been possible without America. And so at the same time, China is somehow increasing the standard of living all over the world. America is doing none of these things, right? So again, as I said, you might say, oh, but the Chinese are evil. Well, look, you know, in the grand scheme of things, why would anyone say anything like that? Most of the products that we've been using are made in China. So what's so evil about China, right? And it basically is the rhetoric of the regime, the American regime. We've learned to talk that way. And sure, okay, they're evil, but the American foreign policy has murdered many millions of people as well. So, tomato, tomato, it's pretty much I think you're throwing stones in glass houses. You might have certain values which you might say and are try to argue are better than Russian values or Chinese values. I would not disagree. I always told my class, you do not want Chinese culture to rule the world because it's not Western culture. And a lot of people in the West would probably be very, very upset in the shift in cultural values. And so, what do? You have to embrace your history once again. Look, China's got hypersonic missiles, America does not, right? Americans can't even read anymore, right? Teaching in middle school, half the students there struggle with reading English. We're not talking about reading Chinese, but most of those Chinese, they speak English very well. In my former university, we had 1,000 Chinese students at any given semester, and they all could speak English well enough to study here, and some of them are fluent, like they were born here. It was insane talking to them. So they speak Chinese, which is like really cryptic. And on top of that, they can speak English, which is, is a convoluted, hot mess, hodgepodge of languages from all over the world. Anyway, so all of this kind of reminds me of the Curtis versus Wright. This is episode 33. I talked about this, where the Wright brothers, quote unquote, invented the airplane, and then they patented it, and then they sat on it, right? The most they ever did with the airplane patent was the Kitty Hawk 2, right? So the Kitty Hawk was the first, oops, excuse me, was the first plane that they made out of their bicycle shop. And then they made another one, the Kitty Hawk 2, right? And at the same time, Curtis saw the idea of airplane. He was like, "Oh yeah, I get it." He started taking off from boats, which then signaled the aircraft carrier. He started landing on the water, seaplanes, and every time he did something like that, the Wright brothers sued him, and they said, "You can't do that. That's my idea. That's our idea. You're not allowed to use that idea, right?" And so fast forward, and the conclusion of why that fight ended was because of World War One, right? By the time the United States entered World War One, they had no air force. There was no such a thing as an air force in America. And all over Europe, of course, they had air forces, fighters, bombers, etc. And America didn't have it because the Wright brothers patented the idea of flight. Now, the patent only extends to the borders of the country, so other countries don't have to pay attention to that at all. And they took those ideas and they ran with it, and they were far more advanced than America was at the beginning of the war. So all of the rules that exist in America, they are there to protect certain special interest groups, right? Like bankers or certain union labor, right? Like the steam fitters union or the carpenters union or whatever. But all of those rules, they might protect the jobs of certain people, but what they do, in broadly speaking, is they impede development and growth, right? So it's good for some workers, but what it does is it puts America behind. Uh, and that's probably part of the reason why nothing is made here. Too many unions that don't want to take advantage of modern advances, modern technology, and it's like using landline, hardline phones in an age of cell phones, or using manual typewriters instead of computers, right? So America was once upon a time the leader in the world of pretty much everything. But now it's just a pile of ignorant jealousy, right? That's all it is. Continuous war does not lead to prosperity. It rots the country inside out. You got homelessness, you got fentanyl encampments, you got slums, you got failing infrastructure, runaway healthcare costs, runaway college tuition costs, runaway everything, runaway inflation. And then we still turn around and say, we're the best, really? Uh, it's almost a joke. And not even the weapons in America are that good anymore. The F-35, where we dropped $2 trillion of research and development, doesn't even work. Doesn't even work right. And if therefore we don't have anything that really is able to go up against Chinese and Russian weapons. Just don't. We don't. So what have we been doing instead of focusing on developing technology and improving our society? We've been virtue signaling and having entangling alliances. All of those things have distracted America. Special interest groups from labor to corporate bankers. You know, Jimmy Dore. I love Jimmy Dore. His stuff is largely good. But when he starts talking about labor, man, ugh, it's like, yeah, that's part of the problem, right? So there are distractions too. Even the stuff about race, gender, Epstein's client list, all of that stuff. Really, some of it is really, really bad, but they're distractions. It's not deserving of the focus of all of the energy of America. And so we have to get people to remember what really matters, which is the respect of others, right? Everyone's free, everyone's an individual, and we make choices and we have to pay for those choices. We have to suffer the consequences of those choices ourselves. There is no entitlement. There is no right to anything because we talked about this before, negative and positive rights. Anything that you say is a right, if it requires someone else to do something for you in order for you to have it, it's not a real right. You are trying to enslave other people, right? People always forget that. That's because they're a bunch of hypocrites. And so we have to remember what really matters, right? Our personal freedom, the ability to make our own choices and then take responsibility for those choices. It's going to take a while for us to catch up to China. And once the dollar crashes, we're really going to feel a lot of pain. So keep all of this in mind. Start getting those creative juices flowing again to foster uh, uh, an environment, a society, a community where free ideas can just have no limit, no restraint to be able to solve the problems that we encounter in a post-dollar world. That's it for this episode. I'll talk to you next time.